Hey, I'm Kev Mr. Kev, and welcome to Power Oversteer, the world most watched on the ElusiveKev channel. And today we are reviewing the Pocono Indycar 400, the first time the IndyCar series has visited the Pocono Raceway since 1989, and it was a very good return to the Pocono Raceway, the tricky triangle, and a very interesting race as well. We saw some championship contenders fall by the wayside. We saw some midfielders challenge for the win, and we also saw the return of a giant to the victory circle, and he did it for a podium sweep. So let's talk about the events of the Pocono Indycar 400 in the race recap. So as part of the restructuring of Power Oversteer, I noticed the race recap goes on quite a long time, and that accounts of the races aren't very interesting. So I'm going to do what I did in the first Power Oversteer and review show of the Australian Grand Prix, and I'm going to basically just do highlights, do it in sections of the race. So let's talk about the first half of the race in Pocono and the start. And we had an Andretti Autosport front row, three of the cars up there on the front row, with Marco Andretti, the hometown kid. His residence, the Andretti residence of Mario, is just an hour away in Nazareth, and I know the Nazareth Raceway is now sadly gone. The quick and fast track there is gone by the wayside, so this is now their home race, an hour away at Pocono, and Marco Andretti got away well from pole ahead of his teammate Ryan Hunter. But in third, James Hinchcliffe, been a feast or famine driver. He either wins or comes last, or has rarely been in the midfield in races, but again he came last. He crashed in turn one, just a bit out of the groove, lost the back end a bit, tried to correct it, but he didn't have the time or space to correct it, and he just went into the wall. So he was last in 24th place, and after the restart we saw Marco get away a bit. We saw Ryan Hunter be right up there as well. We saw some keen fighting from cars Ryan, particularly Takuma Sato, typically, of course, particularly with Heo Cashin. There was quite a dicey duel there, and they all look good for being right up there at the front. Ryan Hunter, Takuma Sato, Cashin Neves, and then Sato came into the pits a bit too hot for a stop in the mid part of the race, and who was also coming in? Ryan Hunter ahead of him. And unfortunately, Sato kind of clipped Hunter and into the wall, and Hunter damaged his car, damaged his front ring, damaged the suspension, I think. But they managed to fix it all, the Andretti Autosport boys, in 20 laps. So Hunter came back out, made up some valuable points in the end, and came in 20th spot to kind of regain a couple of points. And in recent years this championship has been decided by a few points, so this could be valuable right at the end as well. Unfortunately for Sato, who's out on the spot and finished in 22nd. We also saw Sebastian Tvejo already go out in 23rd spot, and EGV so unfortunately also went out, but he came back out and he was about 40 odd laps down by the end of the race in 21st. And so after this midway point, the second half of the race really did become a full race. It was about how much you could conserve and how much stops you could make. If you were making 2 stops, you're probably out of it now. If you could make 1 stop, really help conserve the fuel, you're really in it. And so that didn't bode well for Marco Andretti. He's one of the early stoppers throughout this race, and unfortunately he really did have to save fuel at the end just to make it to the finish, and this really counted against him, this safety car. So at the front, immediately after this safety car though, we did have Scott Dixon and Tony Kanaan in the KV racing machine. If Tony Kanaan won this race, he was completed 2 parts of the Triple Crown. If he won in Fontana, the finale, he would have won $1 million. Unfortunately for him though, when he passed Scott Dixon for the lead, just over 50 laps remaining off the 160 lap race, he kind of clipped the left rear bumper of Scott Dixon. On IndyCars they have these rear bumpers to help prevent the cars from flying. He clipped it just with his front wing, he kind of skewed it, and for a couple of laps he ran at reduced speed, but eventually he had to pit out of sequence under the green flag. went a lap down. He was very gracious in letting himself get out of the way. It's not like in F1 where the backmarkers have to get out of the way almost immediately. Then the backmarkers are allowed to fight with the leaders as long as they don't interfere too much with that lead battle. But unfortunately for Tony Kanaan, that just ruined his race. He didn't end up a lap down. He did unlap himself near the end of the race when we had Ganassi at the front. Scott Dixon, not Tony Kanaan, Dario Franchitti and Charlie Kimball in the third Ganassi car. Going to run in the B team spec, but it's still a Ganassi car. And so those three, Ganassi just managed this fuel strategy perfectly, and despite some willpower tension, the Penske boys, they did manage to full strategy okay, but it didn't quite work out for Kashinevis or Power in the end. But it was Ganassi at the front at the end, and for the last few laps they really did manage it well. The final pit strategy, the fuel stops brilliant from them, and they just controlled it at the front. Even though Charlie Kimball did get a bit too close to Scott Dixon in the end, he was only about 3/10 behind Dixon at the finish. So it was Scott Dixon winning the 100th race for Target in this series, the 200th race win for Honda as well, and it's his first race win in almost a year, and it was a very welcome win for Chip Ganassi. And it is the first time actually he's had a 1-2-3 podium sweep in IndyCar as well, so he's a very big win here. Scott Dixon, I said, won from Charlie Kimball, equaling his best result, equaling the second he got in Toronto last year. Dario Franchitti on the podium for the first time this year, his first podium in a very long time for Franchitti, and in an uncharacteristically up and down year, a bit like last year as well. In fourth, Will Power, as I said, threatening for parts of the race, and it did know maybe he could have got the win. He did lead for small parts of the race, but he did just fall back a bit behind the Ganassi boys. But a very good fourth place, again continuing this solid form he has on ovals this year, strangely compared to the road courses. Competing in the top 5 for the first time in IndyCar. Joseph Newgarden and the Sarah Fisher Harman racing machine, they managed the strategy really well as well, and he really charged through from the back end of the top 10 to a top 5 finish in the end, as other cars had to save fuel, such as Simon Pagenaud in 6th, running all day long, right up there at the front in the Smith, Peterson, Hamilton, HP Motorsports machine. Got it right eventually again. But yeah, a very solid 6th place, continued good form, such as he did in Iowa, where he got another 6th place as well. In 7th, behind him, Justin Wilson, the Delcoin racing machine, another solid run in the ovals for Justin Wilson. Really has shown himself to be a good oval and street course, road course driver as well. In 8th place, championship leader Helio Castro Neves, had to save fuel a bit at the end, kind of dropped back a bit, but a good 8th place ahead of Ed Carpenter in the Ed Carpenter racing machine. A bit disappointed for Ed there in 9th, would expect him to be a bit higher up. Completing the top 10 though, Marco Andretti really did have to save fuel, and he did run out on the slow down lap after he crossed the finish line. But a disappointing 10th place for Marco. Again, was running up there, but just ran too hard, too fast for too long, and really kind of spoiled his day with that fuel strategy there. In 11th, behind him was Somano Di Silvestro in the KV racing machine, ahead of James Jakes, another solid run for him in the Ray Hall Lanigan machine, and then the disappointed Tony Kanaan in 13th place, right up there. Could have got a great result and really leapfrogging himself up there in a championship hunt as well, but 13th place in the end. 14th behind him, Ryan Briscoe. He didn't qualify, started last, but he managed to get a 14th place in the National Guard Panther racing machine. 15th, Pippa Munn in the other Delcoin racing machine. Solid run from her, went a lap down late in the race, but a very good run for her. 16th, Sebastian Bourdais, another up and down race for him, an up and down season for him as well, mostly down, along with Alex Sagiani in 17th, a mostly down season for him as well. Then Graham Rahal in 18th, disappointing again, looked solid in parts of the race but just dropped back. 19th, Tristan Volta in the other Smith, Peterson, Hamilton, HP Motorsports racing machine, and then Ryan Hunter-Ray, EJ Viso, Takuma Sato, Sebastian Saveja and James Hinchcliffe, and that is your race recap of this Pocono Indycar 400. So let's talk about the winners and losers of this race. So the winners and losers of this Pocono Indycar 400 race, we're going to talk about that as I run down the order a bit as well. But yeah, brilliant day for Chip Ganassi back on top. Scott Dixon back on top. They call him the Iceman in the IndyCar series because he keeps his cool. He's never flustered. He showed it again today, despite Charlie Kimball getting a bit too close at the end here when he's going through the lap traffic. As I said, Pippa Man and Tony Conner unlapped himself and was running really fast at the end there. But he was on fresher tyres and had just made a fuel stop about 20 laps from the end, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, brilliant day for Chip Ganassi. Much needed results for Franchitti and Kimball, especially for Kimball if he wants to make the top 10, from Franchitti if he wants to make the top 10 and maybe even challenge for the top 5 as well. He's now only 35 points off that top 5 with James Hinchcliffe in that 5th spot, so he could maybe aim for that if he gets a great run in the remaining races of this season. There are 8 of them. Sorry, I was going to say 7, but I remember Houston is the double header, along with Toronto, the next race, a double header around that tie Interesting Street course. There's going to be fireworks there. But back to this race again, winners and losers. So big winners: Target Chip Ganassi, also Penske, good 4th and 8th for them. Will Power again, as I said, showing great form on the ovals in his Penske machine. It hasn't quite worked out for him. You know, he's been up there but hasn't quite got the win, and it's been over a year since he has won a race. It's really incredible saying that about Will Power, and he is in the lower reaches of the top 10 in the championship. And again, he's probably going to be one of those aiming for the top 5, maybe targeting Hinchcliffe. Got a very big target on his back, James Hinchcliffe. And Harry Khrushchev has another solid points in his title race, again in the top 10. The only race he hasn't finished outside the top 10 this year has been Sao Paulo, his home race, surprisingly. So, you know, great consistency from Hayo. Maybe he's opening that gap a bit. Maybe he can finally grab an IndyCar title. But as I said, 8 races left, lots to play for still. Andretti Autosport, disappointing day for them, as I've already talked about. Hinchcliffe out on the first corner of the first lap, back in getting away, and as I said, feast off Famine driver, and he was so dominant last time out, winning, that you kind of expect him to come last in the next race, just like the start of the season, a win last, and a win in the first 4 races of the season. So maybe he's going to come last in Toronto and then win the second race there. So that would be nice for the home crowd, the Canadian winning on his home turf. But yeah, that it is such a strange season for Hinchcliffe. He finished low down in the Indy 500 after qualifying well, finished in the midfield in Detroit and low down in the second race, and good top 10s in Texas, Milwaukee, and of course last time out winning out in Iowa. So yeah, very strange season for Hinchcliffe, and 84 points back now of Hayo. You've got to say he's got to get some good runs. He's got to build consistently, unlike he's done in this IndyCar career. He's kind of been up and down. Last season it was a feast of famine season. First half feast, second half famine. He really did have a poor end to the season. So yeah, he's really got to get on that consistently bandwagon. And now he's behind Scott Dixon in the championship. Dixon is really moving himself into playing that championship hunt. It could be a 4-way race up there. Marco Andretti in third on pole in his now home race, and so disappointing that a fuel strategy didn't work out for him. Again, running well in a race, and it just doesn't work out for him, like in Iowa, like in Milwaukee, like in Texas, like in Indy. Yeah, it's you could say every race to this season he's had a chance of maybe even winning it, maybe not St. Pete, he wasn't quite there, or Alabama, or maybe even Long Beach, but Sao Paulo, with Indy, with Texas, with so many races where he could have won it, but he's just not got the result. So unlucky for Marco, but he's still up there in the championship, 55 points off Hayo. It is still a very good year for him. Behind Ryan Hunter-Reay in the championship, who's second, now 23 points behind Hayo. He's opened up that gap, the Penske driver, by 15 or 14 points even from him on this event. But yeah, as I said, grab value points at the end. They fixed the car. Great work from Andretti Autosport, and really shows how good a team they are this year, that they are clawing back points when it's not working out for them. Unfortunately for EJ Viso, 21st place, just didn't didn't go well for him as well, and now he's 14th in the standings, and he's really fighting to get in the top 10, 29 points off Takuma Sato, who's in 10th place. And let's talk about Sato, fastest out of the race in his AJ Foyt Enterprises machine, but just a bit aggressive on that pit entry line, and now braked himself, took out Ryan Hunter out of the race. Dreadful from him in the end, but that's why we watch him. He's exciting. You always know something's going to happen when Takuma's about, and unfortunately today it was crashing out, much like it's been in his F1 career and his previous IndyCar career. But this year he has shown great pace. He has got a few poles there, most laps, well, not poles, but been right up there in qualifying, been up there in the race. And he's always going to be an inconsistent driver, unfortunately, Sato, it seems. But if he just stays on form throughout a whole race, he's always going to finish up there. And he's always been up there in the past 2 years now, with Ray Oldham, and last year with Angel Point this year. It's always up there fighting for the wins now, and fighting for the top 5, fighting for the high places. That's good to see. He's definitely got pace, just needs to rein himself in occasionally. So apart from the big three and Sato, who else is there to talk about? As I said, Tony Kanaan, so disappointing in his KV racing machine not to get that win, not to be in there with the Triple Crown threat, not even to get in the top 5 or top 10. He really did deserve to be up there. He had strong pace all day. His teammate Simona Di Silvestro, good result for her in 11th. She's had a poor run here, and after finishing in the top 10 for 3 of the first 4 races, has had the best of 16th since there in Detroit. And so it's good to see her get a 11th place, not quite in the top 10, but a good solid run that she needed. And she's down there in 18th in the championship. Not what her talent deserves, and the luck she's had this year. Ed Carpenter racing 9th place. Disappointing from Ed. I expected a bit more from it, honestly. He's very good on these big ovals. Of course, got pole in Indy, finished top 10. Top 10 in Texas, or top 5 in Texas, top 5 in Iowa last time out with the fastest lap. Expected another run for the top 5 here, but didn't quite get it. A good top 10 though, and he's right up there, 13th. Could get a top 10 in the championship. That's really good for Ed. He's not the best on road and street crossovers, but on the ovals he's always going to be right up there challenging, and another good solid points finish for him. Smith, Peterson, Hamilton, HP Motorsports. Simon Pagenaud, 6th again, very solid result for him. Tristan Valtre, race didn't work out for him again, showing some pace on occasion, down in 19th, and he's 19th in the standings. So yeah, very solid run for Simon Pagenaud off the back of his Pikes Peaks run last weekend. I think it was last weekend. Yeah. So yeah, he's had a very good week and a good 6th, and he's 7th in the standings, 269 points, 3 off Hinchcliffe, who's got 272. So really up there for another top 5 in the championship. I think it was top 5 last year. So yeah, another great season for Pagenaud in that machine. Dale Coyne, Justin Wilson just behind him in the championship standings of Pagenaud. He's 16 points behind him, but he got 7th place here. Great run on the ovals again, as I said, really turning it into an oval and road course driver. Pipperman in 15th, not bad considering the lack of experience in the car this year. And she's confirmed for the Fontana finale as well, so she's raced in all the Triple Crown races and in Texas. So yeah, solid run for Pippa, and right down in the stands in 30th, understandably, as she's only run 3 races. But yeah, a good solid run for her, a bit like when Anna Beatrix is in the car. She's running around that similar pace, so that's good to see for her. Ryan Briscoe, 14th in the National Guard machine, just stuck in the midfield it seemed. You couldn't get past Bourdais for long stretches of the races, and when you finally got past it, the strategy didn't kind of work out. So yeah, 14th for Briscoe, kind of a solid midfield result though, and considering he didn't run qualifying, he started at the back, 14th, I think that's okay, even if it didn't work out in the race. Dragon Racing, what can you say about Dragon Racing this year? Another poor result for Bourdais, 16th, and Sebastian Tveda out early. I think he spun, if I remember correctly. So just not working out. So they just showing pace at times, but they showing pace at times, but just have not got a top 10 result. Oh no, so they just got one top 10 in Detroit, and that's it. Just poor for Dragon this year, and Bourdais must really be wondering what is he doing there. Alex Tagliani and the Brian Hurst of Barracuda machine in 17th, finished behind Bourdais. Again, the race didn't work out at all for Tag. So we've got Rahal Letterman Nanagan with Graham Rahal 18, James Hicks 12. Solid run for Jakes again, showing good pace ahead of Rahal, and another weekend where he's been ahead of Rahal. I don't think we expected Jakes to really challenge Rahal that much, especially in his part of this team, and Rahal being much higher rated than Jakes. But Jakes has stepped up this game. He's been very good. As I said, he has improved, and yeah, 12th place, and he's only 4 points behind Graham in the standings in 16th and 17th, so look out for that. And the guy I haven't talked about yet, Joseph Newgarden. I think it's the only one I have not talked about. Great result for the Surfish and Hartman racing machine. I always like to see Surfish Hartman up there. And Newgarden, he's got that personality that they try and really bring out in the IndyCar videos and with the videos he does with his PR team. And he's showing good pace this year. He's showing some nice driving. I did say it was his first top 5. It's his second top 5 actually. He got one in Sao Paulo, but his first on an oval. And he's showing great pace here. He's showing good consistency now, kind of a bit. I mean, he's got quite a few top 10s here, as I'm trying to count them up here. He's got 5 now. That's really good. Good improvement this year, and he showed some signs of it last year. He was quite good round the Toronto, if I remember, last year before making a mistake late in the race. So maybe look out for him in Toronto as well. So that's the winners and losers. Kind of a very mixed bag this year, but there's been big winners and big losers, and unfortunately Dragons were the loser there. But let's do of the race now. So, of the race and driver of the race, quite a few candidates. Ganassi boys win up there. Will Power, Andretti, even though the fuel strategy didn't work out. Justin Wilson, Simon Pagenaud, Tony Kanaan, but he did kind of misjudge that rule on Dixon, which did grow in this race, so maybe not him. And we've got Joseph Newgarden as well, top 5, and yeah, quite a few candidates this weekend, or this race. And I think I'll give it to Charlie Kimball and Joseph Newgarden for his top 5 here, his first oval top 5. And I think those two are kind of unexpected to be in the top 5. I think you expect Scott Dixon to be there, even though you might not expect him to win. I think you expect Dario to be up there. That now that he's kind of sorted out problems, it seems, with this car, and he seems to be getting on a good run now. So yeah, I think you got to give it a share to the young kids there, or the younger guys there, Charlie Kimball and Joseph Newgarden in the top 5, and Will Power as well in 4th. You expect him to be up there now on the ovals this year, especially. He's been quite strong there, as I said. Team of the race, well, that's a no-brainer. It's got to be Chip Ganassi Racing here. They worked out the fuel strategy perfectly, worked out the pit stops. Everything went right for them, and yeah, you got to give it to them. Overtake of the race, and I find it really hard to judge oval overtakes. Generally, I think because sometimes they get good runs of the corners and they get alongside, and then the other car kind of chops across them and gets really aggressive, and if they go down the inside, it's kind of a no-brainer. You've got to give them room, and sometimes they just go through quite easy. So I really find it hard to judge overtake of the race on ovals, but none really kind of stood out to me, really. A couple on the restart. I think Tony Kanaan around the outside. I think I'll give it to him on the restart. I remember him going, being typical Kanaan, going on the outside of guys at a restart. So I'll give it to Tony Kanaan. And that is the review of the Pocono Indycar 400. I'll be back quickly with a preview of the Toronto duel. Another 2 races in Toronto, 1 standing start, 1 rolled in start as normal. And I've seen that it's been heavy rain in Toronto, so it might be a toboggan special in Toronto, where it's going to be a quite a wavy start on one of them, and then hopefully a dry and and standing start for them in the other. So yeah, Toronto got a preview coming out for that, and of course I got to review the German Grand Prix as well. I do hope to get that out today, as it is kind of late already, but it will be out tomorrow. So expect that tomorrow along with the Toronto preview. But I hope you enjoyed this Power Oversteer, a bit shorter than normal. I hope you enjoy that it's a bit shorter than normal as well, as I know they go a bit longer. So yeah, this is just under the half-hour mark, I think, once I edit it all together. So yeah, hopefully I'll keep it to under the half-hour mark, then over, like I normally do on these review shows. But salamat for watching. So till next Power Oversteer, cheerio.